You're listening to the Soulless Minions of Orthodoxy, alternative DVD commentaries. Our film for today is from 1999. It's called Galaxy Quest. And I'm very, very pleased to be joined by two special guests. Tisto from Tisto.com. Say hello.
Hello.
And John from Sofa Dogs.
Hi.
All right. Thanks for being here, guys. And I'm really excited because Galaxy Quest is a favorite of mine. And any listeners out there, if you want to watch the movie with us, which I hope you do, our sync point for today is going to be the first black frame after the DreamWorks logo has faded to black. So go ahead and cue that up. Pause this track if you need to. So we're going to go ahead and get started, and I'm going to give you a countdown. So when you hear me say unpause, just unpause with us, and we'll watch the movie in sync, hopefully. So here comes the countdown. Get your finger on your remote. 3, 2, 1, unpause. DreamWorks Pictures presents a Mark Johnson production. Okay, so we should be in sync, hopefully. Galaxy Quest.
Yep.
All right, John, this is a first for us. We've never done a commentary before. We've actually never spoken before today. So really excited to hear your thoughts on this movie because I don't really know how you feel about it.
I love this movie to pieces, and I like revisiting it today. I had forgotten. I was like, really? It came out in '99.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow, it's over 10 years old at this point. And that surprised me because it looks more current to me in just the way, just the humor of it, and
the effects hold up.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah. The effects are fantastic.
Oh yeah, definitely. It still looks good even today, and this opening here I love. You know, of course, you know this movie is a riff on Star Trek, and Star Trek was in the '60s. This was in the '80s, obviously, but I thought this was a really good way to open it. And we introduced the plot device of the Omega-13 right there. It was genius.
Yeah, a lot gets set up right there. We basically get all of the characters laid out for us and what their role is and everything. It's a really clever way to start off.
Mm-hmm. And we have Sam Rockwell on screen here. Now, prior to this, I was familiar with him, but not his name. But I had seen him in one movie before, and I thought he was excellent. And that movie was called Lawn Dogs.
Oh, really? Okay.
Are you familiar with that one, John?
I've not actually seen it, but I did work in a video store when I was a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
And so there were a lot of movies like that lining the shelves. And so I've seen the box art for it countless times, but I've never actually watched it.
Yeah, it's definitely worth at least one watch. I wouldn't say it's the best movie out there, but I'd watch it for his performance and the performance by, I think it was Misha Barton.
Yeah.
Misha Barton. She was very, I think this was one of her first roles. And it's basically a movie that focuses on their friendship. And I just really sat up and took note of Sam Rockwell at that point, and I knew he was somebody to look out for after that. So I'm really glad he's made a name for himself.
He also has kind of a memorable role in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
I was just about to mention that.
That is right. Yeah, I didn't even know that till someone retroactively brought that up to me, and I'm like, they're like, oh, it's that scene near the end, when you got Elias Koteas on screen, and he beat up that guy, and he's like, you call that and that over there family? Okay. But not to get off topic there.
Yeah, so this is great. We had the Pillar Box old TV show opening, and you got to see all of the actors in their roles, and now we get to see them in their current form as actual people, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but you get the same cross section of actors. It's just a terrific opening.
Oh yeah, it's setting up the whole their dynamic and everything without feeling like it's a setup. It's just letting you in, but it's fun. It's feeding you information at the same time, but not batting you over the head. And of course, all these characters kind of parallel Star Trek actors kind of in real life, I suppose. I thought that Alan Rickman here who plays Alexander Dane. That's his character's name, not on the show, but in the movie.
Right.
And on the show Galaxy Quest, he's Dr. Lazarus. I thought that he was kind of a cross between the real life actors of Leonard Nimoy and George Takei. But
Takei,
yeah, I thought he was kind of a cross between the two.
I can see that. Yeah.
Because Leonard Nimoy had that famous book, I Am Not Spock, and then the sequel, I Am Spock. And I thought that like Alan Rickman here, he's really not happy with just being identified with being Dr. Lazarus, but he never had, at least that I know of, any trouble with getting along with William Shatner. That was Takei. Takei has this hatred for William Shatner, and so this, I guess, unreasonable hatred, it would seem. I don't know. I mean, people call William Shatner an egomaniac.
I think the whole cast kind of had problems with him. He was always kind of standoffish.
Oh yeah, and that's definitely paralleled here. I mean, there's that separation between the cast and the character played by Tim Allen.
Yeah,
right. Which we see gets. I mean, there, you touched on two very important sort of arcs in this movie where, you have Alan Rickman's character start out as someone who he's tired of being associated with this thing. He doesn't respect it. He doesn't take it seriously. He doesn't appreciate it. He's just so like he's so burdened by it. It's like a curse to him. And then by the end of the film, he finds new appreciation and respect for it and embraces it and views it as something great to aspire to. And with Tim Allen's character, he is separate from these guys and they're sitting down watching him hog the spotlight and get all the glory. When he comes out, everybody erupts in applause more so than they did anyone else. And by the end of the picture, he goes out of his way to bring everyone on stage with him and share that moment together.
Yeah, it's a nice little kind of arc to watch, I know what you mean. It does give you a good feeling.
By the way, Sam Rockwell would have been 13 years old in 1982 when he claims he was on the show.
Oh, really?
He was born in 1968.
If you want to see Sam Rockwell as like a 15-year-old, might have been his first movie. There's a little-known horror film made by Victor Salva, the guy who made Jeepers Creepers, called Clown House. It's a very good film, but it has a sort of tragic, disturbing history. But I won't go into that here. But it's,
you mean
it's
the
a very good
actual
movie.
The production has a tragic history?
Mm-hmm.
I see. Oh, when you said clown, I thought you were going to say Killer Clowns from Outer Space for a moment.
No, that's Christopher Titus.
Oh, okie
Yeah.
Well, I was going to ask you, John, what are your thoughts on Star Trek?
Star Trek, it's interesting because people tend to be divisive and polarizing about Star Trek and Star Wars. That seems to be the two that are always sort of against each other. And I've never really understood that or the desire to separate the two. I always thought like they both are kind of apples and oranges in a way, but they're both sort of sci-fi fantasy. One more sci-fi than the other, of course, but I'm okay with that. Like, I feel that you should be able to appreciate and enjoy both, for different reasons and, like, why should you bear allegiance to one or the other? And Star Wars, like, I'm not, it's like I grew up in that era, but I'm not one of those, like, Star Wars kids. I'm not, sort of passionate about Star Wars. So like when the prequels came out, I was like, yeah, these are not good films, but I'm not angry about it because I'm not so invested. Although I do love Empire. Star Trek, I have more of an affection for because it was on, in my home on a weekly basis, and I watched it in syndication, and I enjoyed, some of the movies, when they came out. So yeah, this idea of doing a kind of send up of Star Trek and the people involved and just that whole, phenomena, like, I think is very funny, and it actually kind of surprises me that it took someone this long to do that.
Yeah, I agree. And I actually heard that, they had actually considered using the real Star Trek actors.
Yeah, that was the original idea. That was the original idea, I believe. So I think either the people they approached, didn't want to do it, or they sort of came to their senses and figured, yeah, they're not going to be. They might view it as we're laughing at them and not with them, and they might not want to participate in that, so they decided to go another way. And I do think that it's probably better off that they did that, because being that it's not specifically those people allows them, I'm talking about the filmmakers and the storytellers here, allows them to kind of do a lot more and go in a lot of different places, because they're not so married to specifically Star Trek.
I think it's better because the actual Star Trek actors are not that good of actors. This is a fantastic cast.
Fair enough.
Well, Tisto and I have talked about Star Trek, and he's done some commentaries on some of the Star Trek films. You seem to like them, but you're not like a huge fan.
Yeah, I certainly grew up in the 70s. I think I'm older than both of you guys by a fair bit. I grew up in the 70s watching Star Trek in syndication and really enjoying the original series. I was really excited. I saw the Star Trek the Motion Picture in the theater, and I saw all of. I think I've seen all of them except a couple of the Next Generation movies in the theater. But there was a point there where after Next Generation started to get old, where the movies weren't that good, and I just kind of said, okay, I'm kind of done with Star Trek, but it's still, a part of my childhood.
Okay, cool. Yeah, me. I am a lifelong Star Trek fan. It's it's my first love in life, and you can. I think everyone can remember the first time they ever fell in love, and what girl that was. And I have that too, but when it comes to television, it was Star Trek. And unlike the first love for me, Star Trek never actually broke my heart. So
I feel the same way about Farrah Fawcett Majors.
Yeah, Logan's Run. Yeah, good movie. But yeah. I kind of had the same thoughts about it that John was talking about, Star Wars and Star Trek. I love both, but it's like you said, apples and oranges. I think they can both be good in different ways. Although I have more of an affection for Star Trek. I think it's because when I was growing up, there was more Star Trek around to absorb.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
definitely.
There's a lot. There's just a lot more of it. Whereas, you had the Star Wars films, and they were separated by a number of years, and then there was a long stretch where there was just nothing, and then you have the prequels, which your mileage may vary there. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I grew up on the Next Generation and the original series, and of course later came Deep Space Nine, Voyager, Enterprise, and then you had the movies kind of dispersed in between all those. So there was just Star Trek going on constantly, and there was never anything new for Star Wars. So to me, it was just Star Trek, Star Trek, Star Trek. I mean, I was the Star Trek kid in school growing up. There's always one kid in every class, and that was me. And as I said, I took some notes rewatching this yesterday, and since I'm such a dork for Star Trek, I had a real great time finding all the different kind of nods and subtleties that were going on with this movie. And I found it kind of funny that these people here, the Thermians, are from the Klaatu Nebula, and Klaatu, of course, is
a reference to the was it the day the Earth stood still?
That's right.
That's right. Day the Earth stood still. So it's not just Star Trek they're referencing; it's just sci-fi in general too. And there's a lot of other little things I'll bring up.
It's funny how those things get sort of removed and repurposed for other things. So depending on the age and generation of the person you're talking to, like some might know it from its original source, and then some might know it from Army of Darkness, which uses the phrase Klaatu Barada Nikto.
Oh, that's right. Okay. That's right. Yeah. I guess, that does come into play sometimes in terms of when you were born. That reminds me, not to get off subject for too long, but when I saw the movie Chasing Amy, and they're having their little dialogue about scars and whatnot. Obviously
right,
now
the Jaws reference, yeah.
Right, that was a reference to Jaws, but at the time I saw it, I immediately thought of Lethal Weapon 3. Do you guys
Oh,
remember that
nice.
scene? Right. And Kevin Smith actually references that in his own commentary. He said that in terms of when you were born, you would think either Jaws or Lethal Weapon 3.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, when I was born, I thought of immediately Lethal Weapon 3 because that was just fresher in my mind. But now looking back, I'm like, okay, that's obviously a nod towards Jaws. Now it just feels stupid. But other things I wanted to bring up before we get too far in the movie, we had Justin Long come up and ask Tim Allen here during the convention something very specific, a kind of technical question. And I thought that was kind of an obvious reference to the famous SNL skit, the Get a Life skit. Are you guys familiar with that?
Yes, so William Shatner was the guest host that night, and he made a lot of fans angry by that get out of your parents' basement, get a life speech.
Yeah, it's a very good skit, and I've seen that whole episode, and I thought it was very funny. I like William Shatner. I enjoy him in Free Enterprise. I think he can be very funny, and I thought that skit was kind of a way of poking back at the fans, but at the same time, saying, yeah, you guys can go a bit too far sometimes, but I love you guys. So I didn't think it was over the line or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't offended. It's interesting because William Shatner is a guy who, he did tons of theater and, a number of like sort of, B movies and things like that. And then, Star Trek came along and people always sort of made fun of him for being like this, over dramatic, animated, kind of personality. Mm-hmm. In like everything he does. And I've noticed that over the years he's sort of gotten to a point now where it's like he's grown into himself and become like this really interesting and I would argue, depending on the role, very good actor.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, like the guy's won a number of Emmys, I believe, for was it Boston Legal?
Boston Legal, I think. Yeah, he's done a couple of other things.
Yeah,
he kind of found his groove in doing comedy where he plays that kind of overblown blusterbuss.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed watching his career over the years, and I think now he's obviously become very comfortable with himself. He's grown into his shoes. He's like, okay, this is me. I have no problem with it, and
yeah, I
think people have returned that with their affection, and I think it's great, a good thing. It's good to see when someone's really comfortable with themselves, when they're relaxed.
Yeah,
in the special edition extras for the DVD, Tim Allen said that he talked to William Shatner, and Shatner was like, "Oh, you're doing me in that, and when you're doing that stuff, right?" And he sort of had to back away and say, "Sure, yeah, but really, what I was doing was." I was doing Yul Brynner in the Ten Commandments. more than Shatner.
Oh, man. Yeah, I actually, I was at Dragon Con in Atlanta, Georgia a few years back. And it was later in the evening. I remember it was dark outside. And we were sort of out in the lobby, a group of us. And the employees in the hotel had come up to us and said, "Okay, William Shatner is about to come in. He'd appreciate it if you didn't, make a scene, because he just wanted to kind of come in under the radar and everything." We were like, "Yeah, okay, cool." And when he came in, you could hear a pin drop. Just everybody got really quiet, and he walked like right by me, because I didn't want to like, he's like, "Hey, Mr. Shatner, good to meet you," because it's like late and the guy like just came in. He's probably jet lagged, So yeah, just everybody just kind of let him go, but like nobody was but we couldn't for some reason go on about our business either. So we just kind of met in the middle where we just all kind of stood there and marveled at his awe.
Marveled at his awe. That's good. Yeah, I found one of the things I found really fascinating about this movie is not only is it kind of a loving tribute, it's poking at the fandom and whatnot, but it's also very loving.
It's very much that sort of I kid because I love.
Yeah, and
which I think is the best kind of humor. It's not mean about it.
Yeah, it's not like
Right.
Spaceballs, you know. But
Well, all these guys are big science fiction fans. Tim Allen himself said he wanted to do this role partly because he loves Star Trek and he wanted to be the captain and be in that role. I mean, he kind of is that guy. I mean, he played obviously Buzz Lightyear and that kind of thing. And I mean, not only is he that side, but he's also the ex TV star guy, right? Because he had just finished Home Improvement.
Home Improvement. Speaking of Buzz Lightyear, he kind of looked like Buzz Lightyear in that shot because he has the sort of clear goop over his face. It looks like an astronaut's helmet. Yeah. But yeah, I think it's very clear and infectious how much fun the people making this movie are obviously having.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, sometimes it can be fun on a set, sometimes it isn't. You know, you hear stories like that, but you can really feel a sense of love from the filmmakers, you know, and that's, you know, when they have passion, you know, that bleeds through and you can tell. And
can you imagine getting the whole cast together for this event?
Oh yeah,
I think this was a little bit of an exaggeration, but at the same time, like later on, coming up when Taggart. No, that was Jason. When Jason is like, oh, it's all real, come with me, and they just like kind of blow it off as he wants us to go to a gig, yeah, and they just, because they're so sort of desperate for work and they want to be included, they go along with it anyway. So maybe it does, at least for these characters, make sense in this world that they would all show up for this.
Yeah, she actually makes a point of saying, or somebody does, that they're a team and they go together. But and they're irritated that Jason has made some other arrangements a couple of other times. So you're right. At least for this cast, for some reason they tend to work together.
Yeah, the movie did a really good job of creating that divide, and mirroring the real life divide between the original cast and Shatner. They all kind of. Well, except for Takei, Takei would say, "Oh, he's up on his high horse," but there was kind of a divide, But let's see. I'm trying to.
Why are they all carrying communicators with them?
There's so many things. I know. There's so many things going by that I want to point out. It's just the movie's going by too fast. Yeah.
We should say a little about Daryl Mitchell, who plays Tommy.
Yeah,
he actually had a motorcycle accident several years ago, and he's paralyzed now.
Yeah, he's in a wheelchair, and I saw him. He was on a short-lived show on Fox, as if there was only one, called Brothers, and he was, of course, in a wheelchair, and
still working.
Still very funny, very 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 good actor.
Well, as we're watching this scene here, and he's trying to convince them. I mean, there's, I love the way he approaches them. He's he's hungover, and they don't believe him. But one of my favorite lines, he's like, they're termites or Dalmatians. I can't really remember because I was kind of hungover. I mean, there's so many good one-liners in this scene, and
it's like, yeah.
Okay, I can believe they tend to work together, but they all come in the same minivan.
Yeah, it's kind of like a little party bus.
No, it makes sense that they would all sort of be driven to, to a gig like that. They're kind of like a rock band in that sense. And of course, it's like Jason shows up hungover and late, so he's like the lead singer, lead guitarist. It's like, oh, why are you doing this to us?
Yeah, it's really fun to watch, because you can tell like. They're stuck together and they don't really like that, but at the same time there's this kind of undercurrent of affection for one another. It's like, we're stuck on this life raft together, but at least we're together.
I look at it as like whenever he shows up late or not at all, or sets up other gigs for himself, they get resentful because it's like, no, we're supposed to suffer together.
Right. Yes, true. That's a good point.
Well, you mentioned Daryl Mitchell, he plays character Tommy Weber, and on the show he's Lieutenant Laredo, and that's kind of like Will Wheaton, on Star Trek TNG. He played Wesley Crusher.
Yeah, definitely a reference to that. I think you're right.
Yeah, and like I've been meaning to say, like, this movie kind of does a really good job of setting up its own universe separate of Star Trek. Creating its own kind of past and history and little things and whatnot, and how all their characters, and they all have their little quirks and whatnot, and there's brief little explanations of the Thermians and their past and how they came to be and how they've been hunted down by Ceres, where Ceres comes from, and I just love that stuff. I eat it right up. I mean, I'm like I said, I'm a dork for this kind of stuff, and
I love that it keeps piling on, because it's like just after they're still coming down from dealing with being rocketed into space, and then these guys come in and they're just
and look at this, look at these aliens on screen. I mean, this could have been CG, and thank God it's not.
Absolutely. It looks, Stan Winston is what it is.
Yeah, it's the master. I mean, and it looks beautiful. I'm like, oh God, why did they? Will they ever just stop doing this CG nonsense and they just realize that the stuff that's actually there is actually the better way to do it?
Yeah. Well, I think that Guillermo del Toro has it right, where he uses CG sparingly to complement and enhance the practical effects that are mainly there.
I think we decided Tony Shalhoub kind of not beam in, but pod in, I guess.
Right. I love that he just totally goes with everything.
I love Tony Shalhoub. I think he's a great character actor, and that's one thing. Yeah, he does go along with everything. I'm glad you brought it up. He's so nonchalant during the movie, and I don't know. They never really explain why. He just kind of easily accepts
Shalhoub.
In the extras they say he's not supposed to be stoned really, but he's clearly a burnout. He has spent a lot of time in the intervening years warping his own mind.
Oh, is that it? Okay.
But I just love that characterization and the way he's always eating snacks and everything, and everybody finds their own place. Sigourney Weaver has this. Mm-hmm. She actually reminds me a little bit of the Wilma Deering character from Buck Rogers. Like maybe they're borrowing, because she's not really Uhura from Star Trek, and maybe they're borrowing a little bit from that instead.
Right. Oh, it was like I was saying before about how because it's not specifically the Star Trek actors, they're able to sort of mine more and more places.
Have a little bit more fun with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, of course, first thing I think of is Uhura, but say like Tony Shalhoub, he's Tech Sergeant Chen, and obviously he's Scotty. He's the engineer.
Mm-hmm. He's Scotty, but he's also, wasn't there a guy on Voyager? Gosh, I can't think of his name now.
One of the bridge crew. I mean, obviously. Are you trying to think of the actor's name or the character's name?
Yeah, I'll go on. I'll think of it.
Well, I'll just name them off. Ensign Kim, Chakotay.
Yeah, Ensign Kim. Harry Kim. That's right.
Harry Kim, yeah. Well, he's also, I mean,
he's supposed to be Asian.
Yeah. Because it's like, he's also sort of the adapting the red shirt role, on Star Trek.
I'm glad you mentioned
just
that.
Constant, the running gag of constantly. It's like I'm gonna die. I don't even have a last name. Like,
that's good. The red shirt thing, and his actual name is Guy, and he doesn't even, Guy, it's. Here we go. This beautiful shot, and I just love looking at the fine details. You can see the registry of the protector, the NTE 3120. And it's the NSEA protector, and NSEA stands for National Space Exploration Administration. The Beryllium Sphere. This is their.
The NTE stands for Not the Enterprise.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I didn't know that one. That's cool.
Speaking of, did you catch that Star Trek the Motion Picture? They did all that in like a matter of seconds.
Right, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, we spent about 10 minutes of it in that movie.
Oh, you mean their the fly up to dry dock? Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that reminds me. I was listening to this great show. Actually, watching it. Anybody out there listening to check it out? It's the Cinephiles on YouTube. Check them out. They're on public broadcast in New York. They did an episode on Star Trek, and they were talking about the motion picture. And one of the panelists mentioned, that beauty pass, the Shatner looking at the Enterprise, went on literally for so long that he started to wonder, is Shatner wearing eyeliner? And I was like, I never thought about it, but you know what? That does go on forever, and maybe I would worry about that too. But This actress here, what's her name? The playing the Thermian?
Missy Pyle.
Yeah, she's been getting around lately.
Yeah. Oh, she's great. Yeah.
She's in Dodgeball and a couple of other things. I can't think of any big roles though that she's had.
Well, she's a good character actress.
Yeah, she does a lot of TV too.
Yeah, Alan Rickman here, of course. I'll always immediately think of Hans Gruber.
Hans Gruber.
Oh,
right
absolutely.
Look at that grin on Sam Rockwell's face. I think the guy is he's brilliant. He can play drama and comedy. I mean,
Yeah.
he was
the mustache totally makes that character.
Oh, he looks like an 80s porn star almost.
Yeah. And Alan Rickman, I think part of the appeal of this role is he kind of is that guy.
In a way, yeah.
He is a classically trained Shakespearean actor from Britain who has done those roles, and then came to America and ended up playing guys like Hans Gruber and other just sort of generic bad guy roles. But gosh, playing the hell out of them.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, I love that there's even a line towards the end of the movie where as he's coming out, he gets introduced and the guy goes, give him a hand. He's British.
He's British.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I know. I found it really funny. Like in the beginning when Sam Allen's character is trying to talk him out on screen, the way he does it is by saying, "The show must go on."
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
damn.
And
you.
he's just totally. He's like, oh, you suck.
Yeah. It's like the one thing. All right.
My one weakness.
Yeah. But yeah, I find it funny. His character's name in the movie is Alexander Dane. Like Dane. Yeah, I thought that was a funny little riff. But,
On Hamlet, you mean?
just like a Great Dane, or isn't it like a dog breed or something like that?
Yeah. Oh well, I associated it with Hamlet since he's a classically trained actor.
Oh yeah, well that too, sure.
But I love Guy Fleegman. He's such a loser of a name.
Well, yeah, he's the straight man. He's the outsider. He's like the Winston of this movie. He's the one that's gonna.
Very much so. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
the Winston Zedmore of this film.
Yeah, he's the one that's gonna leave out like scenes. He's the one that's gonna ask the questions and be us in the movie in a way. But
Right.
he
He's
does,
good for the audience. Yeah.
yeah, he does a great job, and this is really good. The way. I wondered if that this kind of ever happened on Star Trek, if they ever accidentally run into anything, but you think they have
the
it for a
geometry
moment.
of this does not work though. Have you noticed that they scrape the nose, and yet the thing has these huge wings.
Huge wings. Yeah.
side.
That is a little.
Yeah, that's
I kind of looked at it like this: is like maybe like he turned it so bad, to the left.
Yeah.
That. Like that's how turned around he is. That he's able to like scrape the nose,
Right,
and
but
not
he should
anything
come out
else.
almost sideways if that were the case.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're right. It doesn't
Yeah.
really work, but it's okay. I'll forgive them.
But it's a hilarious moment, and it's played for
Right.
all it's worth. Like in that shot there, like where was the wing in that shot?
Mm-hmm.
It's inside the building.
Yeah. Like, wouldn't that be your bigger problem? It's like, oh, we've scuffed up the paint job. There's a wing inside.
This is a lot like the J.J. Abrams Star Trek, though, when the Enterprise fails to get off the line and therefore doesn't get destroyed in the battle.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Isn't it because, like, Sulu forgot to put the keys in the ignition or something like that?
Yeah, he literally, forgot to drop the clutch or some stupid thing like that.
Yeah. Well, that's a beautiful shot.
Oh, it is, isn't it? Man, that's a great-looking ship, too.
Oh, yeah. It's a great design. This is interesting here. They're kind of riff on food replicators here. Corn-fed Iowa beef. Captain Kirk's
Yes.
from Iowa.
Yeah.
And they're all having their own little meals here. And he's Dr. Lazarus, not Lazarus. Lazarus is eating Kepmock blood ticks. That's what they're called. And this reminds me here of in Star Trek of Gok, which is a Klingon food, or Tubrats, which is a Ferengi food.
Yeah, and the blue liquid they're drinking reminds me of blue milk from
Star Wars.
From Star Wars. Yeah.
Well, the blue.
Sure.
Oh, the blue to me is Romulan ale.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Yes.
Yeah.
Although, that's what but I know what you mean by the blue milk. Sure.
I love how, just thematically, Jason Nesmith continues to be treated like a king, while Alexander Dane and the others are noticeably treated less well, even though the Thermians are trying to treat them all perfectly equal and satisfy them.
Somehow it's just not. Yeah, it's like they're all given this food that's just like, what? What is that? What am I eating?
Oh yeah.
And then he's got a steak and a baked potato. And
well, yeah, it's hero worship, and sure, he's the star of the show, and it's funny, even though they're just actors playing these roles, but they all kind of slip into their roles as they were on the TV show. They can't help it. It's just naturally what they gravitate to.
Yeah, Sigourney Weaver has that great line about how she had one stupid role in the show, so she's going to do it for real.
Yeah, she says I have one job on this ship. It's stupid, but I'm going to do it. I thought that this lead actor, I can't remember his name, playing Mathazar, the lead Thermian.
Enrico Colantoni.
Yeah, he's almost unrecognizable, and I know him mainly from Just Shoot Me and Veronica Mars.
Right.
Oh, that's right. He was the father in Veronica Mars, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he's fantastic in that. And
I had no idea.
He does such a great job here. Like, you don't really recognize him, and he like.
Well, yeah, he does.
Just the mannerisms and the weird way that he speaks, and just
he does
such a fully realized character. It's great.
Yeah, as we're watching his face on screen, it's great. He's able to convey so much emotion through his expressions, and the Thermians here are playing kind of stiff characters in a way. They're not almost like Vulcans. They almost have no personality or whatever. They're
right, it's like emotions are new to them, and like. Mm-hmm. They're copying what they've seen on TV, basically, or I'm sorry, historical documents, and
exactly.
And so they're just like they're kind of awkward and like you said, stiff. And
like the way they walk, it's awkward to them, But I think he does a great job conveying the emotions of this character without saying anything. It's all written on his face.
Right, because as we've seen, like this is not their natural form. They're these spotted, brightly colored, tentacled, octopus creature-looking things. Mm-hmm. And I love that the villain, like everything about this guy everything is green, and it actually looks a lot like like Tisto was referencing J.J. Abrams' Star Trek, which came like
10 years after
a decade later, yeah. But this looks a lot like Eric Bana from J.J. Abrams' Star Trek.
Oh yeah, as the Romulan villain, sure.
Mm-hmm.
I think he actually mentions in his commentary, Abrams mentions that he loves this movie, and they did borrow a little bit from it.
Oh, that's funny.
Well, that's good. It's all about love. I love it. But that character of I think Saris's full name is, I wrote it down here. I can't even read my own writing. Rothhar Saris, and he's from Fatu Cray. And it's just one of those like everyone has a place they're from, and they give them a little nuances, and I just find that stuff fascinating. And this little bit with the he didn't put him on hold. They've done that on Star Trek TNG plenty of times, but here it didn't work.
It's one of those things where on Star Trek they seem to lose audio whenever it's convenient for them to make little asides.
Yeah, and they call it the Saris Dominion. That's what the Thermians refer to it as. And, of course, Dominion, Deep Space Nine. This is a great line. Yeah, that's one of my favorites. There's a red thingy moving towards the green thingy. I think we're the green thingy. That's a good one. I think it was pretty good casting, kind of a coup to get Sigourney Weaver in here. Of course, Alien.
Yeah, she was really keen to do it. They actually kind of didn't want somebody who had done science fiction, but she campaigned for the role.
Yeah,
she wanted to send up her role as Ripley because it was such a straight arrow, serious-minded, role where she hardly ever, only the one time really got to get into the space panties and so on.
Yeah, I can see why they wouldn't want to go with like an established sci-fi presence. They might bring too much kind of baggage, I guess, but I think she did. She does a really great job playing the kind of opposite of herself in terms of like Ripley.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
blonde
Well,
hair was her idea and everything.
And it just allows her to just have fun, which of course the Alien films are very serious and dire most of the time. But yeah, I mean, it's just like I was saying before, like it's just clear they're having such great fun here, and the interesting thing about Sigourney Weaver is she looks amazing. She looks better than.
Well, she looks fantabulous in this movie.
Years ago, and yeah, it's just like, what the hell?
It's 20 years after Alien. I mean, geez.
Yeah, it's like, what are you drinking, and where can I get some?
This is good. Tony Shalhoub again, nonchalant. Just FYI, as the ship's falling apart behind him. But I like this kind of their little techno babble of hit the turbo. It's kind of like Warp Speed, but I think of immediately Spaceballs when they go to ludicrous speed.
Ludicrous speed, yeah. They've gone to plaid.
They've gone to plaid. Yeah, I find that when I was a kid, that was one of the funniest things in the world. So I actually didn't believe that ludicrous was a real word. I thought they just made it up for the movie. Until I actually heard someone use ludicrous in a sentence, and I started to laugh, and they asked me why. I was like, because ludicrous isn't a real word. Rick Moranis just made that up.
Oh, facepalm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is a minefield left from one of the great wars of, I believe the year was 12/185, according to the Thermian calendar, I think. This will come into play later. It's good. They're setting it up.
It's a great setup.
Yeah.
I love that the Thermians it's weird because like they say things like, oh, thank God you're here. And I totally buy it. I totally go with it. I don't even question it. I don't even why would they even say that? They wouldn't know what God is, and it's just
God, I guess. They have a universal translator. It's translating whatever they think of that as.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well,
Fair enough.
I mean, everyone's speaking English in this movie anyway. I mean, that's another cliche of Trek.
Well, except that what's the girl?
Yeah, at one point her translator's broken, so all she can do is these dolphin squeals.
Yeah, which is hilarious, but also kind of another nod to the TV show when it seemed like the universal translator just never broke down.
Well, it did break down, and it was interesting when they did that. I don't know if you're that familiar with Deep Space Nine, but there was an episode called Little Green Men when it was Quark, Rom, and Nog actually were the Roswell aliens. Yeah, exactly. It's a great episode. They went back in time, and they actually were taking the place of the Roswell crash, and they woke up, and their translators were broken. And all the Earth people could hear was them speaking Ferengi. And they had to actually stick a little metal pin in their ears to fix their translators, which is something they never really ever talked about. It was funny. It's a nice little nod to that device.
That is funny. And they have those huge ears, which is...
Yeah.
This kind of a scene, I don't think it ever happened in the original series, but it happened all the time in Next Generation.
Yeah,
with they're on a conference table.
Yeah, they have their conference room. Yeah, they do that a lot. TOS didn't have a conference room. Yes,
no, because Kirk typically just well, I know how to solve this problem. I'll punch it in the face.
Kirk is the action man
there with a phaser and 2 red shirts.
Yeah, he's an action man. He goes to fisticuffs.
He is the Corbin Dallas of the original Enterprise. It's just,
Corbin Dallas, is that
anybody else want to negotiate?
Fifth Element reference, yeah.
Did you remember the character's name? That's good.
I love that movie.
Multipass.
Yeah.
He knows it's a multipass.
Here she is. She's saying, "I'm going to do my one job." And one other thing I noticed is their color coding of their uniforms. Yeah, if you notice that, just like in all the the TOS and all the shows after that, all have their separate colors for separate divisions. If you notice, they have that here. Yeah. In Star Trek, in the original, red was engineering, operations, blue was medical, and gold was command. And TNG flipped that a little bit, but here it seems that purple or light purple is science, red is operations, and blue, I guess, is science, I suppose. As you can see,
the one guy, Guy, he ends up being he ends up getting like a role as a security officer of some kind. So his uniform is blue. So
Okay.
And
Yeah.
Jason wears gray, I think.
Yeah, well, he's the captain, so Picard had his own little captain's jacket later on in the season to make him more distinguished.
I love this Gilligan's Island reference.
Oh, those poor people.
Poor people.
Yeah, I love that. I thought that was such a brilliant stroke of writing. I'm glad you reminded me of it. The fact that they're watching the TV transmissions, and taking it as reality. I was like, oh God,
Yeah.
what a great idea. I never would have thought of that. And of course, I think of Contact, the Vegans watching Hitler, But
Yeah.
it's great. They're watching the show as it's being, the TV transmissions are bleeding off into space, and they're taking Gilligan's Island for historical documents. I thought that was just a really, really great idea.
Well, I find it interesting that even given the fact that television shows and even Galaxy Quest apparently has title cards that that not only list character names but also the actor that's portraying them, and they never seem to pick up on that.
Right, yeah. They must have they probably retcon it in some way.
All right, so they have to find a new beryllium sphere and beryllium spheres. That's I'm sorry, that actor. Do you recognize him? Both of those two guys on the left.
You're talking about Rainn Wilson in the back, or?
Well, Rainn Wilson was the taller gentleman.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a character actor, and that other guy, I don't know his name, but he pops up in like Orgasmo, I think, and basketball.
You're right.
Yeah, but
Wait, are you talking about Dean Bakar?
oh, is that his
Is
real
that who
name?
you mean?
He was the
No, I'm trying.
He was the shorter Thermian when they were in that group hug.
Oh my God! I didn't even. Is that who that is? I didn't even recognize him.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's. I'm only familiar with him from Orgasmo in basketball, so obviously he has some kind of friendship with.
He's friends with Matt Trey. He's also in Cannibal the Musical.
Oh, he is.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Never seen that one, but here's their shuttle bay and their shuttle pod. This is great. Yeah, they're looking for a beryllium sphere, which is dilithium crystals, and I recall in Star Trek 4.
Of course.
Yeah, Scotty, said they drained the dilithium crystals during the time travel, so they have to re-energize them, and they can't do that in the 24th century, but they can do it in the 20th century because of nuclear reactors on aircraft carriers. But shows you what kind of level of dork I am right now. But this is good. He's eating the snack, as you noticed.
The
snacks,
little handy snacks.
The handy snacks. Yeah, that's great.
And he's just got a grin on it. He's just like, it's all good. I'm fine.
Well, this is as they go on to this planet here.
They should have had a moment where he actually went up to a food replicator, and unlike Picard asking for tea Earl Grey hot, he should have said, "Handy snacks."
Yeah, that would have been good.
And it knows exactly what he wants, and it gives it to him.
Yeah, that kind of reminds me of that. They played on that a little bit in Hitchhiker's Guide, the movie anyway, when he asked for tea and she says, "Oh, I should have said it resembled tea." But this
I love his breakdown. He's always so great.
Yeah, he's acknowledging the fact that he's a red shirt. He's gonna die. He has to prove the situation is dangerous. It's fun to watch him break down. But
I love to in the again. I'll reference the extras. Tim Allen is such a science fiction nerd. He
look
said
at that smile on his face.
a lot of the things that are given to Guy to say are actually things that Tim Allen brought up. Like, well, how can they can't just go out there. They have to test the air. How do they know they won't die?
Yeah, right.
That's stuff he came up with.
This is good.
And it's hilarious.
Yeah, I mean that's another one of those tropes, I guess. There's always air to breathe, and everyone speaks English. But this excursion to this planet here is an obvious reference to a location that Star Trek frequented often, Vasquez Rocks.
Vasquez, yeah.
I live very, very close to Vasquez Rocks, so I've driven past it many, many times. So I'm very familiar with viewing it from the freeway. I've never actually been to it, but I've seen it often. And the most famous use of it was in the episode Arena, I think, with when Kirk fights the Gorn, which is also
there's kind of a reference to that later. What do you think?
Well, that's actually that's a mock time. I think that's the battle riff from a mock time. I'm sorry, what were you saying?
I know.
What do you think about the fact that they obviously they could have gone to Vasquez Rocks and shot there, but they chose a different location?
Well, like this isn't exactly Star Trek, but it is Star Trek. I guess it's kind of the same.
Right.
Like we all get with what they're doing. They just wanted to make their
right. And I think this is much more dynamic too. Like it's just, I mean, look at that.
That's just great. He's like, something bad happened here. Immediately he knows something's not right. Which is, just a cliche.
I want to. Earlier there was some, beautiful sort of choral music playing. So I want to give a shout out to the composer David Newman, who, of course is famously known for scoring the Bill and Ted films and Heathers, but most people will know him as the composer for Serenity. Most sci-fi fans.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Well, if you're listening to this, I'd imagine you are a sci-fi fan. Oh yeah, it's a good score. I agree. I was going to mention that. I'm a big fan of film scores, but it's funny you mentioned Bill and Ted. I didn't know he composed those films, but Bill and Ted, actually, the episode that Bill and Ted were watching in Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey was Arena. They were watching that episode in that movie. That's kind of a funny little coincidence.
It all comes full circle.
It all comes down to Bill and Ted in the end.
I have to say, I don't really like these little alien creatures. They don't feel like Star Trek to me.
Yeah, their design, I don't really like all that much either. But I can see where they're going with this kind of infant look to deceive you at first, to make you think they're gentle creatures. But there
was that episode that had of the original series that had Clint Howard as the baby alien, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the Corbomite maneuver.
Yeah,
I do like that they have these little sort of radar sonar sort of ears that go up when they're sort of like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think they're sort of designed like it's like they've got these weird little butts that you can see. They're not, I don't think they're alien enough, I think, is the problem.
Maybe so. I find them just a little off-putting visually. I don't know. Something about their aesthetic.
The joke is a good joke. Oh, they look nice. And then Guy says, but, don't you watch the show? Of course they're going to turn out to be monsters. But
of course.
I can't think of a Star Trek episode that really had something like that.
Not off the top of my head, no.
Yeah, the only thing I can think of is like the Trouble with Tribbles, where it's like, oh, they look like these insignificant, harmless little things, but they produce like bunnies, so they're just all over the damn place.
Yeah, immediately I thought of Tribbles as well. Yeah, but the only thing bad about them is the fact that they breed uncontrollably.
Right.
Yeah, here they're slipping into their roles again, and he's bringing them up on it. He's like, why are we all following him? He's just an actor like the rest of us. And, Sigourney Weaver even played into it. She's like, oh, we have to get out of here before one of those things kills Guy. So,
I love that line. I love it.
So, even she's starting to play into it. They can't help it.
Right. Because he just got through, like, calming him down and be like, no, you're going to be fine. You're talking crazy. It's like, we got to get out of here before one of those things kills Guy.
Mm-hmm.
What are you, an infant? We have communicators.
Yeah, we have communicators. Yeah,
and he ends up not using it anyway. Which I love.
Yeah, he doesn't.
But then it immediately launches into this. He's
doing
rolling
that.
Around.
He's doing the Kirk roll. I wish he did the jump kick.
Oh God! Oh yeah, and the double fist punch.
Oh sure.
Very very TJ Hooker.
I
haven't seen that show in a while.
Yeah.
TJ knows it's cocaine.
What if it's cyanide? Yeah, right. He's caw. See that bag he's holding, Tony Shalhoub? Did you see that?
Yeah.
What is that? Was there a cut scene? Because he's suddenly got a greasy bag in his mouth, then he drops it.
He got that from the food replicator is all I can think of.
I was just wondering, it's like all of a sudden he has a bag in his mouth, and I was like, where did that come from? Did they cut a scene out? Like, were they in there, like in the mine, and he picked up a bag of food or something?
There are a bunch of deleted scenes, but there isn't one that explains that.
Okay, I just noticed it last night.
Well, I'm guessing since he sort of perpetually has the munchies, that maybe once he decided, okay, I'm going to step off this shuttle, he's going to bring food with him, so he brings the bag of greasy food with him that he obviously probably got from the replicator. And
okay,
this is a little odd. What is he doing? Why is he waiting? Why isn't he trying to get in?
Well, they were trying to get the sphere in fully. He wanted to get that in first. He's got to be.
But
he
ends up just punching Alexander and then jumping on top of it. He looked like he was trying to make a decision there that I don't understand.
Oh, like he just says right here. It's always about you.
Yeah. That, and I don't think they could close the doors with him the way he was situated.
Mm-hmm.
They would have had to, get rid of one or the other. And he's like, well, they need this sphere, so I'll sacrifice myself.
Well, as we're at this moment right here, I just want to throw out a little nod to T. Christie, I believe, who said of down in front, who mentioned that he remembers in the trailer those little aliens are actually speaking English, and said, let's hit it with a rock. It wasn't subtitled. And he and I seem to be one of the few people that actually remember that. And
it's subtitled on the Blu-ray.
Yeah, it is subtitled in the movie too. They're speaking an alien tongue, but it's subtitled. But we remember from the commercials or the trailers that it.
I'm guessing the reason they did that was because the trailer's going to go by so fast that they're not going to put up subtitles for people to read.
Exactly.
They need to sell the joke as quickly as possible, so they have them speak English.
Yeah, they actually do mention that. I can't remember where, but they actually do mention that on the extras of the DVD.
Oh, they do. Okay, because there was a lot of back and forth on the Down in Front forums, because no one but Teague and myself seemed to remember that, and I thought it was kind of funny because he was surprised that I remember that way as well. And we weren't sure if we dreamed
like
it.
Speaking baby talk or something.
Yeah, we weren't sure if we had dreamed it or what. So, this little creature here, who is not the Garignac, but is a pig lizard.
Yes, the pig lizard.
Or at least that's what they call it. We still don't know actually what that thing is.
Well, they think it's the Garignac, but the Garignac is the rock. And this is the
rock monster.
This is their transporter room. They call it a digital conveyor.
That they haven't really tested because it's specifically for humans. But they have, I don't quite understand this, because they have that beam up technology with the goo.
Yeah, they're little pods, yeah.
The only thing I can figure out is that maybe that's more for like really long distances. I guess.
Suppose, yeah. It's kind of confusing that they have both.
Right. It's like, why wouldn't they just use the goo? Mm-hmm. Because they know that works.
But it's a good scene, the way that Tony Shalhoub has to come through. And
I love this. This is very much like The Fly.
Yeah,
reference to The Fly with the baboon.
That's gross.
Green.
But I love the Thermians' reaction to it as as
Yeah.
Yeah. They are also freaked out and grossed out, and then it explodes. I love that he does not move, and there's like a little bit of goop like on his upper lip when he says, "And it has exploded," and it slowly falls off right here.
Yeah, that's one of those moments, they just didn't, write down. It just happened, and they went with it. That's good.
Hold, please. I love that, too.
Yeah, the rock monster, I hadn't actually thought of it beforehand, but I read on the IMDb trivia. And I don't like to bring up IMDb trivia because anybody and their mother can go there and look it up. But it mentioned that the rock monster, the Garignac, was a reference to a cutscene in Star Trek V, The Final Frontier, where William Shatner had actually scripted to have a rock monster come up during their fight with the god entity. But it was cut out of the movie. And it's actually, you can see the rock monster on the deleted scenes of the special edition. But it was kind of a nod to that, and I hadn't actually thought of it because it was cut from the movie. But yeah, apparently the rock monster...
Didn't Next Generation have some kind of a rock monster thing at one point, though, too?
I don't think so.
What did Tasha Yar fight? Those were like
Tosh Yar? Well, it depends on which episode you're talking about.
Yeah, if you're talking about the episode where her character dies, that was like some goopy tar.
Yeah, the tar
creature
creatures.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's Skin of Evil, that episode. Armis.
Good episode.
Armis, that was the character's name that killed her, the sludge monster.
Mm-hmm.
The rudimentary
Yeah, I love that. Can you form some kind of
I love it. He's
rudimentary
gonna hit
lathe?
him. He's like, oh, you.
I love that line. It's just his delivery. Can you form some kind of rudimentary lathe? But it's obviously,
It's like, even if he could, what would that do?
it's obviously, yeah, I know. It's just brilliant.
to a rock, right? Yeah.
It's brilliant. It's obviously it's going back to TOS Arena. When Kirk,
Yeah.
had the cold and the diamonds, and he made the little gun to shoot the Gorn. Obviously, a little quick reference to that, which was it's
great
really funny.
episode.
Oh yeah. I mean, you watch that episode; it's so silly to watch, because the Gorn looks so goofy in his suit. He's obviously a guy in his suit. This is good.
There are a lot of great moments throughout this movie that you don't realize until later on, as the movie is playing along, that they are setups to things they will eventually pay off.
That's the beauty of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
They play beautifully as jokes, but they're actually setting up something that's quite a exciting, genuine adventure moment later. It's fantastic.
Right. They serve two functions. They actually have a purpose beyond just being a joke. So like nothing is wasted.
Yeah.
Yeah, this movie's great at setup and payoff. You're really right about that. Yeah, it kind of reminds me again of Spaceballs, where President Scrooge was beamed in backwards. His ass was on backwards. Why didn't anybody tell me my ass was so big? They had problems with the transporter, just like in here.
But he still has that crap on his face.
Now, where did that shirt come from?
Oh, just it's convenient. Just like in Last Action Hero, she conveniently brings him clothes after he falls into the tar pit.
That's not a new shirt either. Was that he just happened to grab a hold of his shirt before he got beamed out? Because it has holes in the back and everything.
Well, was he? No, he wasn't holding it. Yeah, when he beamed in, he just had the communicator in his hand. I don't know.
Oh well.
He doesn't get his jacket back, does he? Because we know he lost that to the pig lizard.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think he does. No.
Okay. So that's at least consistent.
Yeah, here we have, we got the villain coming back here on screen. And yeah, before I forget, immediately, being the Trek dork I am, I see General Chang from Star Trek 6 with the eye patch, the bolted on eye patch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I love his look. Like I said, they're not CG. And it's great.
There's a bit of the Gorn in him as well.
A little bit, yeah. He has a good design.
They kind of cheap out on these costumes because I think there are only two actual articulated faces.
Mm-hmm. Now, what do you guys think of this scene here? This is when the movie actually gets a little dark for a few minutes.
It's what the film needed, though, because the Thermians have been the butt of a lot of jokes here, and now we need to kind of humanize them, and
there's nothing
by extension humanize Jason and the others when they confess.
There's nothing funny about this scene. It's difficult to watch Mathazar on the table there being tortured. And later, right here, we're going to see him get zapped. It's hard to watch. The movie takes a sharp turn into this
but
this
I
drama.
agree that I think it's very important to
it's very yes.
Things are serious now. Like there are stakes.
Very
exactly.
no,
We're raising the stakes.
Raising the stakes.
It's all what are these characters called? I almost called them theremins, but I know that's not right. That's an instrument.
Oh yeah, the Thermians are the good guys. Yeah,
Thermians. It's like it's all fun and games until a Thermian gets zapped.
Yeah, I find it odd, that Saris, the Thermians don't pick up on the fact that it's just a TV show, but Saris knows what a TV show is. Obviously,
right?
He's going to point it out.
There's a little too much Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle in these costumes.
It's the helmets. They wear turtle shells.
It is a little bit, yeah.
And with the things over, it's look like covering their faces almost. They kind of look like the Shredder a little bit too.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and with their face masks, I think of the Breen. mainly from Deep Space Nine. That's I think we see them predominantly.
I love that
Fix
he
his
fixes
hair.
his hair.
Yeah.
What? Huh?
Yeah, it's
I love it. Like Saris is kind of, like, even when he's laughing, he still has that like grimace on his face.
yeah. I think they did a really good job distinguishing Saris from the rest of his cohorts. He has the spikes on his head, and when he gets angry, his things in the back raise up. It's a good way to distinguish him. I think he was really good character design. He looks really good.
It could have used a little more articulation. It's a little too puppety.
It is a little stiff. It is a bit, but then again, I'd rather see this than CG. So,
well, they could have done more of a.
I do like that the chest kind of almost like any normal guy who's like really muscle bound, like the way his chest would, his pectorals would sort of like bounce when he moved. So that kind of happens here with this guy.
See, this is really a hurtful moment when you see the hurt on Mathazar's face.
Yeah,
when he has
it's a great
understand.
It's a great performance, and I love the way he almost silently says, but why?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. It's a great delivery, and you could look at the hurt in his face.
Yeah, we should say the guy playing Saris is Robin Sachs, and he had actually played a number of roles on Babylon 5, and he was also Ethan Rayne in Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yes.
You're like, yes, Joss Whedon connect, right?
But again, being that he's all covered in all this makeup and prosthetic, and he's got this great booming voice, like I totally didn't. There are so many great performances in this movie, and there's great makeup in this movie too, where like so many actors just really are like these chameleons, and they become these characters and get sort of they really bear themselves into the characters to where like you just can't distinguish, like that's the guy from Veronica Mars, that's the guy from Buffy, it's like what's going on.
Well, and of course a lot of these guys, like Rainn Wilson is kind of in the background there, but of course he became famous on the American version of The Office, and Justin Long was not well known at this point, and he does a great job, and broke out into much wider fame later. It's just a fantastic cast from the top down. It's amazing.
Right. I was talking about Sam Rockwell earlier and how he was in Victor Salva's film Clown House, and I mentioned that he had also made Jeepers Creepers. Justin Long is the male lead in that movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
This was one of his first roles, wasn't it?
I'm pretty sure.
I believe so. Yeah, and Jeepers Creepers came like a year after or so.
Yeah, it's his first feature film credit. It's actually his first credit on IMDb.
And of course, now he's all over the place, and he's also the sort of face of Macintosh computers.
Oh, that's right.
On those commercials with John Hodgman. So,
well, I find it another kind of funny reference to Trek. There, you hear that computer voice saying, 9 minutes till core overload, and that's kind of a reference.
Which was it's like that happened a lot in Star Trek.
Yeah, except for them,
and
the core is always overloading.
It's a warp core breach. It's always like X amount of time till a warp core breach, and I always wonder, how do they know how long it's going to take for it to blow up? Why is there always a set time? That's kind of convenient.
It's like, can you really put a clock on that? Seriously?
Yeah, it's
Usually
but hey,
it's a self-destruct mechanism.
It's the future, so
yeah,
of course they can.
Fuck, even in the future, nothing works. Exactly.
Now we've gone explicit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sorry, that was my fault.
But now we can talk about the couple of lines in here. They actually had some swearing in this film.
Exactly. Yeah.
And of course, the famous one is Sigourney Weaver when she sees the chompers a little later. Mm-hmm. But they toned it down specifically to I guess to get a
keep their
rating, rating, right?
Yeah, she says.
Because she says fuck that, and so they dub it over with screw that. But of course, it's still the original take, so her mouth doesn't sync up at all.
Oh yeah, it's a really bad sync. You can tell.
Yeah.
There are a couple of other times, if you're watching carefully, like at the beginning, Tommy says something about, we know about all that shit or something like that, and they redub that when he's talking to Jason.
I find it always kind of interesting when they bring in like real science into the science fiction. Like we just saw the two aliens get blown out into space. It's just one of those things you don't think about too much.
Like in Alien?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's one of those things you don't think too much about, when they address like real science in a show like this,
right, because everything else is just so like insane and wacky that you would almost expect them to just make up their own stuff, because they kind of have that. They could play that card if they wanted to, and we would totally buy along with it. So the fact that they go out of their way to like inject some real science is a nice moment where they sort of ground things.
Yeah.
It's one of the things they never really play with on Star Trek, like losing life support or gravity or being blown out into the vacuum of space.
Yeah.
They don't use that card very much.
No, they don't. I mean, they did lose gravity. They bring up the whole gravity plating thing in Star Trek 6, when they disabled the Klingons' gravity. But things like that, when they actually show the depressurization and show characters being blown out into space. I mean, they did that a little bit in TNG, like The Naked Now had that episode, but I had that moment in the episode, sorry. But it kind of reminds me of that moment in Attack of the Clones when Obi-Wan starts talking about gravity, being everything at this point is being pulled to this spot because of gravity. It's when he's referencing the planet that isn't there, I think, when he's talking to Yoda. And like I was like, it's kind of odd, like real science. It's kind of, it took me out of the scene, it was weird.
Yeah. Well, once we start getting into midichlorians and that kind of bullshit, you're just, it's like, that's why I was like, Attack of the Clones, that's the thing you're going to pull from?
Yeah, right.
Oh, man.
I love this room here. If you look around, you can see the little props and action figures and stuff like that, all relating to
Terminator, Frankenstein, G.I. Joe.
Yeah. I think there's even like an alien in there somewhere.
Oh, probably.
Yeah.
It's just kind of a funny little nod to what a geek's room kind of looks like, how they decorate it and whatnot.
Yeah, and he has a Galaxy Quest poster on his door.
Yeah, like just like I did. I had a Star Trek TNG poster in my room when I was a kid. So, yeah. Yeah, this is one of those things that I just constantly wished for when I was a kid. For it to be real, just like he's convinced that the events in Galaxy Quest are real. I so wanted the events of Star Trek to be real. I wanted to live on the Enterprise, and serve under Captain Picard or Captain Kirk or whatever. It's one of those fantasies every fanboy has.
Justin Long was 21.
I'm still waiting for holodecks to be a thing.
Oh, holodecks, yeah.
Yeah, nobody is ever going to leave their house,
Mm-hmm.
Just like transporters, no one's ever going to walk anymore.
Except for Dr. McCoy.
I like this. I avoided a capture by using a Mokhtar stealth face.
Yeah. A bit of a Jedi mind trick.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it's like he's obviously a reference to kind of the Spock character with his one line. Spock said, "Live long and prosper." He says by Grabthar's hammer.
Yeah.
So Spock had his Vulcan nerve pinch. And the Vulcan salute. Although I always like to say, instead of live long and prosper, I'll say peace and long life just to screw with people. But that's me.
I love that he does that extra spin for no reason, but he's just like so.
He's in the moment. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
It's good. I mean, you can see the character's growing. He's kind of trying to take on the role of the hero, almost in a way. Or as he calls himself, the glorified extra.
This kid is great. I don't know what else he's been in, but
I've seen him in some other things, some little bits here. And
yeah. Yeah, his name escapes me at the moment.
You can always see him in the background of
he's got a
college
he's got a recognizable
movies.
look, very distinguished look. And it's true, they're talking about what these fanboys are showing, like on their computer. They have the schematics, of the ship, of a fictional ship. I mean, I had this stuff. I still do, of the schematics, the blueprints of the Enterprise, and I had the I had the technical manuals and geek stuff like that. So it's fun to see that even in this fictional reality of Galaxy Quest, they still has their fanboys to do that. And this is the Jeffries tubes. This is their version of the Jeffries tubes. The crawl spaces.
I love that this duct is specifically the right size for these two people.
And it has lights in it.
Yep.
Oh, sure. Well, what I thought was brilliant, it's not maybe the most perfect movie in the world. It's kind of a guilty pleasure. Event Horizon had kind of ducks similar.
I love that movie.
It has its good moments, but the production design is beautiful. The movie looks fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
And
Unironically, I think that movie is delightfully just creepy and atmospheric.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm a dork for anything in space, as I've said many times. So any space movie I'll watch, even if it's not all that great. I think it kind of falls off in the last half, as it starts to get a little more into its horror roots. But the movie looks beautiful. And I was going to mention the scene with Sam Neill when he's in the little corridors, the little crawl spaces, and it's all lit up with green panels.
With green light, yeah.
And that, I was like, God, that just looks beautiful, and it's horrific when the lights go out. But anyway, maybe we'll do a commentary on Event Horizon. But we're watching Galaxy Quest right now.
Right.
The Omega-13. I thought that the Omega-13 here was kind of their reference to the Genesis device.
Yes, a bit.
Oh,
yeah.
sure.
The Genesis device was really sought out. Well, it was primarily in Star Trek 2 and 3, and was sought out in Star Trek 3 by Commander Krug, played by Christopher Lloyd, the Klingon. He wanted it because, as he said, it's the most powerful destructive force ever created. And they believe the Omega-13 might be a destructive force, but as it turns out, it's actually not. It's a matter...
Yeah, the Thermians built it, but they don't know what it should do.
Mm-hmm.
That's a little odd, given that it's not even...
Well, they replicated everything on the show. Yeah, they replicated
But in the show, it wasn't revealed what it was.
Well, yeah, that's true. It's odd. I mean, they replicated the digital conveyor.
Well, I guess it's kind of like this. It's like if you give me all the ingredients and steps to bake a cake, but you don't tell me that that's what I'm baking, and so then just through no fault of my own, because I followed the steps, oh look, I have a cake now.
So you're saying that there's some sort of Galaxy Quest technical manual that actually described what it was made of, what the Omega-13 was made of, and how it was built?
Well, I just figured
that's not...
Yeah, well, and also, it's like, if they were able to do everything else, they made this ship and everything, then why not,
I forgot to mention, by the way, we saw the quarters there. It was somehow about a third as big as it was when we first saw the quarters, and he did the review of the crew. Because they did the first time we saw it, they did a big digital extension.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, I recall the shot you're talking about. I think we just passed the bad overdub where she said, "Screw that."
Yeah,
so, but yeah. I don't know what they were. I can see they're kind of going with a TV cliche here with these chompers. Why would this be here? It makes no logical sense. But I don't remember the belly, the insides of the Enterprise having anything like this.
No, there's definitely stuff like that though. I can't think of a show, but it feels right to me.
I think this is less specific. This is more a sort of reference to just TV shows in general that create some sort of obstacle just for dramatic purposes.
It's very much Attack of the Clones, but that came later.
Yeah, I love it. Right. Not only,
but just all sort of TV and science fiction kind of does this all the time, where it's just I mean, there's no
logical sense.
The only reason there's no reason why this would be here, but it's just, it makes for good TV, so.
Sure. I love it. Not only are there chompers, but there was flame at the end of the chompers for no reason.
Yeah. Just in case you made it that far.
Exactly.
And of course here's, this is a great sort of fist pump moment where they bring the rock monster back.
Yeah.
I love Guy's look there. Oh,
Yeah.
that's fantastic.
Yeah, well, you know what that previous scene kind of reminds me of is the from Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Only the penitent man will pass. Where he has to go through the different little trials. But this is good. This is good. Not only are there,
And he just
yeah.
again, he's totally kinky. He's just like, yeah, right on.
Right, yeah, his eyes go up in
I'm
his
down.
head. Yeah, that's good. But
Yeah.
he sells it, but it's Sam Rockwell that sells it. Oh, that's not right.
And he looks down. He's like I'm gonna be stuck in here. I'm just gonna, try and pretend I'm somewhere
That's
else.
funny. That kind of brief little riff on interspecies mating rituals, which is something that they don't really touch upon too much, in Star Trek, like how they have sexual organs that are compatible. It's funny.
It's like, well, she's green. That's, I could work with that.
Well, in Star Trek: The Next Generation, there was a famous episode, right, where they somehow figured out that all the DNA of all the major humanoid races were actually all related.
Yeah, that's right. That's an episode called The Chase.
Man, you are a Star Trek nerd.
Oh my God, you have no idea. That is a good episode, though. By the way, a brilliant way.
It's all right. It's all right. We'll beat him up later.
That's it. Take my lunch money. Yeah, give me a wedgie.
Stuff you in a locker. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a great episode, and how they actually made a point out of pointing out the fact that we're all humanoid. We all have 2 arms, 2 legs, and a head. Why do we all look so similar? And it's a brilliant way to address that.
That's a great fall.
It's a good death fall. He kind of played it up a little bit, a little theatrical. I'm shot, and he collapsed.
But again, I like it. It's like if they've been watching these actors for so long and sort of been modeling their movements,
right.
It's and they've not and they're not typically human, so yeah, like he would fall like that. I totally buy it.
And look at this. This is another cliche. This is the death scene. A character gets his one-liners in before he dies.
But but like these guys sell it so well that I was watching it today, and I got verklempt. I had to take a moment. I had something in both my eyes.
Scene. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, it is an excellent.
This actor's name is Patrick Breen, by the way.
Oh, Breen, like in Star Trek. Excellent.
Hey.
I love this satisfaction on his face when Alan Rickman here says, "By Grabthar's hammer, by the sons of Orvan, you shall be avenged."
Yeah, he does the whole thing.
Yeah,
too.
and he's been waiting so long, and look at that. Yeah, it's just the right thing to say at the right moment. That hardly ever comes up in real life, but
because it's that satisfaction. There's a bit of acceptance in it, right? Because he's not of that race for real. He's living by that philosophy, but he's not really that. And here he feels like this is his moment of acceptance by the real guy.
Yeah, and we also get to see Alan Rickman's character finally accept himself a little bit.
It's the I am Spock moment, right?
Yes, he's gone from I am not Spock, now I am Spock. Sadly, it took the death of one of the Thermians for him to realize that. But
I love that Gwen, she has that sort of rant earlier in the movie about how all anybody ever wants to talk about or remember me for are my breasts, and by the end of the picture, it's like she might as well not even be wearing a top. Like it's just all shredded, and so just like her boobs are just hanging out. Yeah,
there's a deleted scene there that where a couple of the bad guys come by and she starts acting like she's going to seduce them, and she pulls down the zipper, and that's why it's like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
then she smashes him with the door.
I think that's right. I think that deleted scene is just on the regular edition as well.
So Patrick Breen, the guy we just saw die, you might remember him from Men in Black. He plays Reggie, the guy whose wife has the baby in the car near the beginning.
Oh yeah.
That's right. I love that. It always stops at one on the show. Yeah, that's another brilliant little riff.
Right. It's like since they never see it blow up, they wouldn't design it to blow up.
It's just, I find it hilarious. The ship has a countdown when it knows it's going to explode. It's just look at the way the Thermians are running. It's just It's not. Yeah, it's funny, but it's not, look at his hair. It's only until now that you realize, yeah, he's been wearing that prosthetic this whole time they've been there
for days. Yeah.
Like the character Leonard Nimoy he played Spock. He was the only person that had to wear makeup. He wore the ears. So.
Yeah. There's another deleted scene where they're being shown their quarters, and
that's
Alexander Dane is shown his quarters, and it's just this blank room, and the bed is a bunch of spikes that come out of the floor.
Yeah, that is funny. It's funny.
And then he asks about the bathroom, and the guy opens up the bathroom. We built this up by approximating your anatomy, and it looks this horrible torture chamber.
Yeah, that's those cutscenes are funny, and sometimes cutscenes, they're cut for a reason, but these scenes are actually
they're cut for time. Well, I think it would have been overdoing it. It's like you have the one joke with the soup and the blood ticks, and it's like, and that plays that joke once. And it gets it across perfectly.
Exactly, yeah.
Well, there's always that toilet riff thing, People always ask, where's the toilet on the Enterprise? That comes up a lot. It is on the schematics, though. They do have a bathroom on the bridge. It's on the schematics. Yeah, we're getting the payoff here with the minefield. This is good. I guess these aliens, that Saris is a part of, I guess they're supposed to be the Klingons, I suppose. They were the main force to be reckoned with in TOS.
Yeah, given that they're all like aggressive and constantly want to fight. So yeah, that's what I kind of took them as.
Yeah, the Klingons were the first ones to be wearing heavy prosthetics, as we first see in the motion picture, when they changed the makeup.
Right, yeah.
Sonny.
He calls him Sonny, yeah.
Yeah.
He seems to be down with, the vernacular. That's weird.
Yeah,
well,
he
seems
universal
translator.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and he's I wonder what he actually called him. And he seems a lot smarter than the Thermians.
Yeah, universal translator still, but his words matches his mouth movement. Still, that's kind of brings me back to another great movie, which I'm going to bring up in a moment, called The Last Starfighter. Where they actually wire a little translator onto his collar, and he's like, "Oh, you're speaking English." He's like, "Oh no, you hear English now," and yet, our voices match our mouths now as well. It's one of those little things you're not supposed to think about. But this moment, this is the Last Starfighter moment when, at the end of The Last Starfighter, remember the villain escaped in an escape pod running off with his scepter.
Well, this is funny because I mentioned Serenity earlier, and this actually kind of plays out similarly like the end of Serenity, where
really?
It's like he's got all this like he purposely drags all this destruction behind him, and the villain doesn't see it coming, and and the villain escapes through an escape pod.
Well, and that's why it works, because it's referencing those sci-fi tropes, but at the same time, it's using them and still accomplishing a full-scale sci-fi adventure.
If it's not broken.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
I love their clap, yeah.
I love the way they applaud, yeah.
And they go, la 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 la, yeah.
It's like, look, I can drive this thing. It's nothing.
It's point and click.
We will have to go through a black hole.
Yeah, that's not a big deal. They're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, not like the movie The Black Hole, which I don't know if it still stands up today. I don't know. I'll have to rewatch that.
I'm just going to assume. Yeah.
You're going to assume it does?
No, I'm going to assume it doesn't hold up.
I see.
I remember Maximilian being pretty cool, and those little robots, the floaty ones.
Yeah, I loved that movie as a kid, but it's one of those things that I'm not in a hurry to revisit because it maybe doesn't hold up.
Yeah, the black hole thing, that's something I don't think they ever really they mentioned black holes in Star Trek, but they never actually went through one. They went through wormholes, but never black holes.
Wormholes was usually their go-to kind of thing.
It's black hole in the 2009
yeah, well, like I said, like last night to you, Tista, like
it's not the same.
It's not the same canon. It's a different entity. That
you shut the hole in your face.
This is good. This is like
again, this movie was made in 90 or came out in 99, and yet like I dare argue that black hole in this movie looks just as good as the one in J.J. Abrams' Star Trek.
Yeah, yeah.
This is kind of like their holograms kind of a thing.
Well, it's the same thing that the Thermians use, right?
Yeah, right. I didn't think of it till now. I just remembered.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a great shot.
Oh,
Where she just falls into the frame and just look on her
Now,
face.
there's a famous TNG episode where they're all famous. Aren't they all famous?
Oh,
There's an
yes.
episode where they have to go back in time several times, right?
Oh, I love that episode. I think it's Data that ends up doing it. Like he ends up like saving them all.
He has a memory of it, and he has to lie.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, you mean Clues?
Clues. Yes.
Yes, that's that episode's called Clues. It's not time travel though.
Oh, it's not.
No.
What am I thinking?
I don't know what you're thinking. It's not time travel. They have to erase their memories. And
Okay, but there I swear there is an episode that I'm sure both we're mixing two different episodes, I think.
time travel
okay.
There is an episode where they're stuck on a loop of some kind.
that's cause and effect.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
But there's,
yeah,
I mean,
right.
you got to be specific because they do a lot of time travel.
The episode with the thing where they did stuff in space. You know
There were
that
some
one.
aliens in it.
Yeah,
I don't
there's
remember.
All Good Things. There's Time's Arrow. I mean, there's a lot of time travel going on.
They went down to a planet.
Oh, really? I remember that one. Yeah,
Yeah, that one. You see,
was
you know what
great.
I'm talking about.
yeah. The aliens with the big foreheads. Oh, those guys.
Yeah, that's
right. Yeah.
I love that for all his posturing and everything, that basically he's able to knock him out with his crutch.
Oh yeah.
Something that they never have on Star Trek. We see the guy's arm in a cast, and now he's on braces with a crutch. We don't ever see that in Star Trek.
See, and that's the Borg would not have been an issue if somebody had just had a crutch
Is that's your theory?
to hit them with.
It'll take a lot of crutches, though, I think.
Well, Worf did a pretty good job with his batleth in First Contact.
Yeah, but those things can
Is that-
kill anybody.
Is
Assimilate
that the one
this.
time that you want to fight?
Assimilate this.
Oh yeah, I love that movie. It was great because you got to see if they just adapt to the phaser output, why don't they just start hitting them with swords and crap?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, just give everybody a samurai sword. They'll just chop their heads off. They can't adapt to
When
that.
in doubt, use a melee weapon.
Yeah.
That would have been great if on Star Trek they just all started carrying hangers, little short swords
Well-
at their sides everywhere, just in case they ran into the Borg. That'd be great.
In TOS, I think in the Mirror Mirror episode, yeah, they carried daggers with them. The ship just separated, and this is like the Enterprise D here. It's the saucer. separated.
Yes.
And this would be their battle bridge, as the Enterprise D calls it.
The saucer separation. That happened 2 or 3 times, I
Not
think,
that
right?
Yeah, not that often considering the design that went into the ship. The fact that they made
It always looked a little weird, yeah.
the fact they made a big
Anytime they-
big stink out of the fact that the ship can separate. They didn't do it that often. This I like this kind of marking with fireworks. Kind of reminds me of something else. Not Star Trek related. Flight of the Navigator. Do you guys recall that movie?
Yay! I love that
Yes.
movie.
Never seen that one, actually.
Oh,
That's a shame,
it's-
sir.
it's
That's a
so,
shame.
So much fun.
At the end, his brother signals him by using fireworks. That's how he's able to find his new
yeah,
home.
that's right.
It's a great movie. It's one of my.
I just love that moment where just he goes through all that stuff and they're like, okay, and the dad looks at her and she's just like, well, at least he's outside.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
He's like, fair enough.
Heidi Swedberg is her name. She was on Seinfeld.
That's right. She was
Susan.
George's fiance that died licking envelopes.
That's right.
Yeah. Not only do I know too much about Star Trek, but I know too much about Seinfeld too. I love these little conventions here. You can see all the little detail that went in.
Yeah.
Like the banners and be a part of the Galaxy Quest fan club and or like the fans are called like Questrians or Questoids. Like, Star Trek fans are called Trekkies or Trekkers.
Right.
Although no self-respecting Star Trek fan says Trekkie. You get slapped in the face.
I am an
I-
old school Trekkie, and I will fight
Yeah, I don't-
anyone
I
who
don't-
wants to fight.
I don't give a shit. Like, either one works fine by me. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I'm still a dork either way. You want to slice it,
right.
yeah.
It's like, why are we splitting hairs at this point?
Right.
You
Kevin
love Star
McDonald?
Trek. Isn't that the important thing?
Yeah, I thought it was odd that Kevin McDonald pops up out of nowhere in this movie. I was like,
As the announcer.
yeah, I remember when I first saw it, I was like, hey, it's one of the kids in the hall. Yeah.
Why not Kevin McDonald?
Yeah.
This is probably the least believable part of the film. A ship crashes through the wall.
Yeah,
it is clearly not supposed to happen.
Oh, yeah, you know, what I start thinking of immediately is, what are all those fans going to say when they go outside and see that the parking lot's totally wrecked? Yeah.
Well, I
Another
guess that's part of the idea with like Justin Long's characters, that he is a little delusional and believes that it's real, and so these guys are kind of the same way. It's like they want to believe it's real, so if something big like this happens, they don't view it as a mistake. It's all part of the show. It's amazing. Or even if it's like, you know, not, if they can't cover it up somehow or explain it away, like, could you imagine like going home and like, oh, you know, he's like, you should have been to the convention last year. Oh my God. You won't believe what happened.
That's true. They're never going to be able to duplicate this next year.
That's right, yeah. They start shooting them with their toy guns. Did you notice that?
Yeah, that's
Yeah. You hear a little pop, 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 pop.
He gets to do his roll.
There's the
There you
roll
go.
in the shoot. Yeah.
Yep.
I love it. It's just like, poof. Nothing really too elaborate, yeah.
That's like TOS, right? People just disappeared.
Yeah, they would just kind of vaporize, yeah.
Okay, the really tall friend we were trying to figure out who he was earlier. Is that Chris Owen?
I don't recognize the name.
Oh.
From The Mist and American Pie.
Oh, his name is Jeremy Howard.
Okay.
American Pie. Which
My
character
mistake.
are you thinking of?
The Shermanator.
Oh, you mean the guy who
Well,
had diarrhea?
Yeah, similar looking, yeah.
Yeah, I can see. Yeah, I can see that. I like that salute. That's a good one. Kind of like Spaceballs, Hail Scroob, almost. A little bit.
Mm-hmm. It's a little sort of shoulder to the wheel kind of thing.
Sam Rockwell really does look like an 80s porn star with the,
Or a used car salesman.
something like that. It's funny.
Oh, yeah.
I love that Kevin McDonald's like, get a t-shirt.
Oh, yeah, don't forget. Yeah, this is good. This is good. This is a good come around, a good wrap up. You know, we started at the convention, we end with the convention. Like you pointed out, and we started the commentary, he invites them all into the spotlight, literally.
Is it the same convention? Because would they have two conventions?
Not the same one.
Just a couple of weeks apart?
Sure. Oh, I think this is brilliant. A way to wrap up the
Oh,
movie.
yes.
Like, you know, Star Trek.
I love it. She's like, oh, what? Oh, hi.
Yeah.
You can't, silly camera, sneaking up on me.
Yeah, she's Jane Doe. We're gonna see. Maybe they kiss. Yeah.
Jane Doe.
I like his little fist pump. Yeah.
Yeah.
Here we go. Guy Fleegman. Security Chief Rock Ingersoll. I love it. Yeah, it's so brilliant. This, you know, just like, you know, you could say that, oh, this is just TNG, you know, Star Trek being reinvented, or like the TOS characters, the actors getting reinvented for the movies. You know, they get a second chance.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
All right.
There's a bit of Commander Riker in that last moment, I think, too.
Oh, with Security Chief Rock Ingersoll?
Yeah.
A little bit, yeah.
Well, my friends and I used to call Riker Kirk's dick. It was as if Kirk was separated into Picard and Riker.
That's what I always said. It's Kirk split in half. Exactly, yeah. Well, anybody still watching with us, hopefully the credits just went. So watching them go by right now. And I just want to thank both of you guys for joining me. This has been a lot of fun. I really love this movie, and it's not shown its age at all. If anything, it's improved over the years.
No, like I said, I was like 99. Really? What is that? Is that a typo? And this movie is just such a crowd pleaser. Like I would love to see this movie on a big screen again with the crowd full of people. Like it is just so much fun.
That well, the first time around.
Yeah, it did.
Which
it
is
did modest.
It really
so
really
weird.
release it again, I think, and it would do better now.
I think
Yes.
it would make a good not even a big re-release, but even if you did this as like a midnight show,
Oh, yeah.
a revival,
Yeah.
people would dig it, yeah, like before they release like the next Star Trek movie or something like that, like Halloween, they would play like Fright Night, just keep it in that theme. But
Sure.
what I'm surprised about is, the movie did like modest business at the box office, at least in the States. It had tremendous word of mouth, like on home video, and people would tell their friends.
Yes.
So I'm surprised that this movie hasn't had a sequel. Where's the sequel to Galaxy Quest? Come on. There's so much more to mine here. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that. I mean, it's interesting. You mentioned the idea about like midnight screenings and stuff. There's a movie tavern down the street from me where I live, and they show older movies, but they like a lot of times one of the movies that they run is Fight Club, which also came out in '99. So I'm like, okay, if enough time has passed where like they consider that movie, show it, it's like at midnight or whatever in their rotation, then why not Galaxy Quest?
Yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Start a petition.
Oh, I wish, theaters around where I lived had revivals more often, but we don't have small cinema houses. It's big theater chains, so they're not all into that. But
yeah,
it's a shame.
I guess it's at this point, it's like in California, it's either the ArcLight or the New Beverly.
Yeah, that's true. I have been to some. I did go to a small movie house once in Hollywood. I can't remember what it was called, where they had a midnight showing of Donnie Darko, and
oh, nice.
Yeah, and I'd never been to a place like that before. It was one theater, one screen, no incline at all to the seats, so it was practically flat. But it's just all about the experience, about getting all the fans together, and I think this movie would bring it, just like you said. It'd be awesome.
Mm-hmm.
We should give a shout out to director Dean Parisot, and to the originator of the idea was David Howard. He still hasn't sold another produced script, but they liked the idea so much, but they didn't like his actual story. So they gave it to Robert Gordon, and they said, don't even read this script. Just write your own version of this idea. And this is what came out of it. And it's just an amazing piece.
Interesting.
Wow.
That kind of reminds me of the way Star Trek would take in stories. They would take in unsolicited submissions. They would let people submit stories, and that's how some of the some famous Star Trek episodes got written. People would submit, and they would read them all. And one of them I remember was The Trouble with Tribbles. It was submitted by a aspiring writer.
Oh wow, really? Wow.
Yeah, and the same with Little Green Men, the episode I mentioned earlier.
That reminds me of another point it's a small point that shouldn't be brought up, but I'll bring it up anyway. They say that they have like 82 episodes, I think, something like that.
70, I think it's 79 of TOS or 78.
No, I mean of the
of Galaxy Quest.
Galaxy
I'm sorry,
Quest
yeah.
show, but only 3 seasons. So it's kind of like the original series in that they must have done like 33 episodes a season. It was whereas they don't do nearly that much anymore. But back in those old days, in the 60s, they used to do like just an incredible number of episodes in a season. It's funny.
Well, the credits just ended, so I'll just say my parting thoughts. I just want to thank John from Sofa Dogs and Tisto from Tisto.com for joining me. This has been a blast, guys. I hope we can get together some other time, and maybe we'll do Event Horizon. I don't know. We'll see.
Count me out of that one, but this was great fun. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is Josh signing off.
And this is John. Thanks for listening.
Tisto.